Hi everyone. I was looking into the new features added in the Room release and came across the error handling which was added to Flow Designers. This is a feature that has been long awaited and I thought this would be a good choice to explore now. So let's see what this feature has come up with. So I have the Flow Designer opened up in front of my screen here. Let's create a new flow first. So I would name this flow as error handler flow. Then I would put the same thing in the description. I'll keep the application as global and then I'll submit this. So it has created a new flow. So let me add a trigger for it. So I'll try to execute this when a record is created or updated. I'll select the table as incident. Let's try to test it with the incident table. And so this would be my trigger here. So I click this. Now I need to add a couple of actions which I can test the new error handler with. So what I'll try to do here is I'll try to look up a record which does not exist in the incident table and then I'll try to update it. So let me first add an action for this. So I'll add a lookup action first. So I will look up a record first. So I need to select this lookup record, which I would be looking up from the incident table. So I'll select the table as incident and then I'll put the condition as, let's say, a random condition like short description contains maybe a random text. So I know that this condition would fail because we don't have an incident record with this specific short description. Then I'll click on done here. Now I have added a lookup on the incident record. So with this action, I'm trying to look up an incident record with a random short description. I'll add one more action which would be used to update this incident record. So I would select the update record action. Then I need to update the record which I have selected here. So I'll add this. Then I'll try to update, let's say, the category for this. So I've selected category for this as a network. You click on done. Now if you explore the data panel here, for each step you can see an additional data pill called as the action status has been added. So if you try to expand this, so this is my first step here, you can see this specific step has two different object variables. First one is a code, the second one is the message. So the action status object has been added as a part of error handler. If this action fails, it would be raising an error message and will be able to access the error message specific to the step within this message variable. The action status code will be always 1 or 0. 0 means it's a successful execution, 1 means it's a failure. You could find the action status object variable would be available for each step, and depending on the error, each step would have different value for the message. Now let's see how we could handle any errors that can come up with these two steps. So we have a new feature for the error handler which you could activate by clicking on this specific option here. You can add your error handler logic here. This would be typical logic that you would do within your try catch blocks here. So for this, what I would do is I would add an action for this to capture this specific error message, and I'll try to send a notification to either the admins, and I can also try to log it for my debugging purpose. So I would be adding a flow logic to capture the error message with the if condition. What happens today is whenever there is an error in a specific step of flow designer, the flow designer would stop execution there. The same applies to the error handler, that whenever a step has some error, it would stop its execution and you could access the error associated with the specific step within a new object which you could see along with the error handler, which is called as the error status. So the final error message and the error code would be accessible within this specific object. For the out of the box actions, the code would be giving us an integer which would be either 0 or 1. So let's try to build our condition using it. So I would try to drag this code into my condition field here. So I would say that if the error status code is 1, I would specify if error has occurred, then I need to take my action upon it. So I would be trying to log my error message. So I would create a log for it, and my log message would be error, and I'll add a message like error within error handler flow. This is the name of my flow, and then I would try to drag the specific message and add it to my message field here, and I'll click on done. If you need to capture any critical error messages, then you can also add a notification for that. So I would be sending an email notification for this. I can send the email notification to a specific admin group of the company so that they are notified about it. And I can add in the subject that error with the flow. You can specify your flow name here so it's more clear to the admin, and you can also add the error message associated with it. So I'll just drag and drop it here, and then I'll click on done. I'll save this and we'll try to execute this. So let's try to test this flow and see what happens here. So I would do a random test on an incident, and I click on run test. So it would be executing the flow in the background. So the execution is completed. Let's see the execution details here. Looking into the execution details, you can see that for the first step, we have an error which has been caught by the flow designer. Because of this error, the second step, update record, has not been executed. And you can also see that our specific error handler has executed. If I try to look further into the lookup record, you could see that the action status variable for the specific step has been populated with different values. You can see that the code is 1, which means we have an error. And you can also see the error message which has been captured as no record found. If I scroll further down, you can see that the error handler has executed here. You can see the error code is 1, because of which the log has been saved. You can see the specific message that I was able to capture in the log, that no record was found. And we have also sent an email to our admin with a specific error message of no record found. So this is how the error handler works out of the box. It's quite similar to the try catch block that we can apply on scripts, and you can catch your error messages, use it for logging and other debugging purposes. The error handling feature has been extended to the action designer also, which allows us to customize the error messages whenever we develop new actions. Let's try to explore it now. So I'll be going to the action designer, and then I'll be creating a new action. So let's say error handler test action. I'll place this in the global application, and I will just give it a description as error handler test, and I'll submit it. This would open up the action designer. So let's try to set up a use case for exploring the error handler within action designer. So I would try to set up an action to create a critical incident. The incident would have an incident task added to it, and will also notify a specific critical incident group to be aware of it. So for this, I would be adding 3 different steps. First one is a step to create an incident record. Second one is to create an incident task record for the specific incident. Now the third one would be to send a notification. So I would prefer sending an email in this case. So I would select email. Now let's try to fill each of this information here. So I would select the table as incident, and now I need to populate some value. I would just add the short description for this, and I would mention critical incident for this. By default, whenever a step fails, ServiceNow would stop executing that flow. You can see a new option to change this behavior. So you can see here, if the steps fail, by default, the specific flow or the action would stop and it would go to the error handler. You also have an option to move it to the next step. For this case, I would be moving it to the next step, and I would select this option as don't stop the action and go to the next step. I have selected this option because I need to send the email to the critical incident group even if the incident is not created. If you have use cases where you cannot proceed further with the next step, then you should be selecting the first option. So I would be selecting the second option here. Now I would go to my second step here. Here I need to select the incident task. So I would be selecting the table as incident task, and I would do a mapping to the parent table here. So I would select the parent table as I need to enter the data input for this. So I would be selecting the parent as the incident record that got created. So this creates a relationship between the incident and the incident task. Again, I would be selecting this option as to not stop execution. So I could send the email irrespective of a failure. Then I would go to my next step here. I need to enter the email address. So I would add email as xyzadmin@abc.com, and I can add a specific subject like critical incident. For this specific step, I would stop the action if the error has occurred because there is nothing which comes after it. Now if I try to explore the data picker here, for each step you have an object called as step status, which would be giving you the code and message for the specific step. So you could see this is my first step for creating incident record. It has a corresponding step status object and a code and a message. This code would be always 0 or 1. If it is 1, then there is an error and you can access the error message. So you can see for the task step also you have a step status, and for the email step also you have a step status. Now the important part here is how you customize your error messages for your different steps. For this, there is a new section added for error evaluation where you could add your error conditions and you could customize your error messages. So for example, I would add my first error condition here as if record creation failed. So I need to add a condition for this. So I would be selecting the specific condition from the step status for the incident creation. So I would be dragging this code into here, and if the specific step status code for my first step is 1, there is a failure, then I can assign two different variables here. One is the action status code, which should be an integer, and this would be my custom action status code. I would specify the action status code as 101, which is a random integer. Then I also need to specify my custom action status message here. So I would specify it as error with incident creation. We could access the same information in our error handler for the flow. Likewise, I can add condition for different steps and capture it as a customized message. So let me add error messages for my different steps here. So I would add a second error message as if incident task creation failed. Then I need to fetch the step status from my second step here, the code. And I would say if this specific code is 1, then I can add my action status code for this is 1 or 2, and the message as incident task creation has failed. And I would add one more message here, which is for my third step, which is the notification failure. So I would select the code from the specific step here. Then I would add a condition if notification has failed, and I need to specify the value as 1. Then I would add action status code as 103, and also the message as notification has failed. So I have 3 different custom action status code and 3 different custom action status message. I can use this customized messages in my error handler, and I can define different flows or different actions according to the error message. Now let's try to apply this specific custom code in our flow designer. So I would be saving and publishing this action first. So let me save and publish it. I will also highlight about the specific checkbox here. So if I check this specific error step won't be treated as an error by the error handler, and you won't be able to tackle it within your error handler. So that is the purpose of the specific checkbox here. So I'll uncheck it for now. So we have created all the required error messages here. So you can see that I have created 3 different error messages here, one each for each of the step that I have set up. Let's try to test this out in my flow. So I would be going to my flow designer here. I'll just modify this flow to add my custom action into it. So I'm just removing this. So I'll just remove this here, and then I'll try to add my custom action for error handler, which is added in my global application scope. So I would just search within global, and I'll add this error handler test custom action, which is a test action that I have set up. So once I've added this, I need to set up the error handler for this. So I'd be going to the error handler here, and I need to update conditions according to my steps. So I'd be modifying this error condition based on my custom error code. So for the first case, I would have my custom error code as 101. So I would change it to 101. So if there is an issue with incident creation step, this specific if condition would be executed. So I'll be changing the condition as if incident creation failed. I would execute a series of action which can be used to handle the specific error. So in this case, if the first step of incident creation failed, I can log a message. I can also send an email for this. Now let's add 2 more additional error condition. So for this, I would add my second error condition. So I would select else if condition here, and I need to drag the specific object from my error handler here. So going back to my error handler, I need to pull the latest code here. So I would drag it here, and I would apply the error code as 102. This is for my incident task. So if incident task failed, then the specific else if condition would trigger. And depending on this, for example, for this case, I can add a log for this. So I would put a log here, and I can also add the log message into it. So for the message, I can again drag it from here, and I can drop it. So this would just capture the log in this case. So we can add a last condition to handle the third custom error, which would be a last else if condition, where I would specify if notification has failed, then I can again drag the same error code from the error status here, and I would specify if error code is 103, then I can execute the corresponding actions for this. So this is how you would set up your flow depending on your custom error code, and you can execute different actions depending on your custom error code and take actions to handle those errors. So let me try to save this, and let's test this specific flow. Since this is a random use case, I have just set up a custom error action so that I can explore this feature. So in order to trigger this error handler, now I need to generate error. For this, I don't see a specific option here to trigger this error. What I will do is I'll try to modify the action here. Probably I'll try to modify the step, and I will remove this table from here. So this could generate an error. This is not the right way to do it, but I don't see any other way to trigger my handler here. So I've just removed the table, and I will save it and publish it again. So let's test this action and see its results. So I'll test it from here on a random incident and click on run test. This would be giving me the test execution result. The test has completed. Now let's see the execution details of it. So you can see that the error handler has caught the error here. This is specific to our custom action here. If I scroll down, you can see that the first if condition has executed, and it has created a log here and also sent email. The next 2 error conditions have not been executed. If we try to explore this custom action further, you could see the error which has been generated. There is a custom error that has been generated which says there is an empty table name for your step, and you can also see the message in the step status for the specific step here, and the message is highlighted here. For the next step, you could see it has been successfully executed. Same is the case for step 3. It has successfully executed. So we have error captured for only step 1. We can see that step 2 and step 3 has executed. This is because we have configured our action in such a way that the step execution continues irrespective of the error. And this has helped us to send this notification out to the specific team. So you need to decide on your use case whether or not to continue to a specific step and select that action accordingly. Going down to the error handler, you can see that the error handler has executed for the first step. You can see that the condition has matched and error handler has returned a code as 101, which has triggered the specific series of actions. This is not an actual use case, but you could use a similar approach to set up custom error codes within your action designer, and the same custom codes can be used within your flow designer to trigger different steps for your error conditions. So that's it regarding the new features on error handling within flow designer. Thank you all for watching this video.